if that's on. I'm not getting a light. There we go. Thanks, Scott. I'd like to begin the meeting. For those of you that would like to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance, please rise, and the flag is behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, with justice for all. I'd like to welcome you all to the 2021 deliberative session for the Governor Wentworth Regional School District. My name's Randy Walker, and I have the pleasure and privilege of serving as your moderator today. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the people up on the stage, particularly since they're wearing masks, let me introduce them to you. Way over to the right, we have Heather Cummings, and Heather is the Assistant Superintendent. We then have James Pittman, who is the Effingham School Board member. We then have Christopher Bear from Wolfeboro. We have Timothy Eldridge from Effingham. We have Julianne Cardinal from New Durham. We then have Jack Widmer, who is the chair from Tuftonboro. We then have the superintendent of schools, Kathleen Cuddy-Egberg. We then have our able and competent school district attorney, Barbara Lohman. We have our business administrator, Kathy Oblinas. We have Dr. James Manning from Brookfield, and then Dana Streeter from Ossipee. And up front, we have Linda and Michelle, who are the clerk and secretary, to help. So before we delve into any substantive matters today, I'd like to dispense with a few preliminary matters. There are a few people in the audience that may not be registered voters. And if you are, it is a criminal offense if you vote today. So I'm therefore confident that we will receive your utmost cooperation. We're happy to have you observe democracy in action, but you may not vote on any article. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are not registered voters in the audience? Raise your hand. So we have just this one person right there. So the purpose of today's meeting is to determine the form of the articles. We'll explain, discuss, debate those articles that we legally can, but ultimately the purpose today is to determine the form of the articles that will appear on the ballot in March. So we're not going to vote substantively on any articles today. We'll do that on March 9th in your respective towns. Again, we're here just to determine the form of those articles. There's 4 articles that will be voted on this year. Article 1 involves the election of school board members and officers. And we won't discuss those today. Those people that signed up to run, their names will appear on the ballot, and again, we'll vote on them in March. There are 2 contested races. The member-at-large seat, which Tim Eldridge currently holds, he's running again, and he's being challenged by Steve Johnson from Wolfeboro. Julianne Cardinal will be retiring. This will be her last meeting, I believe. And for her slot in New Durham, Jason Hills and Stephanie King are running. Are either one of them here today? So just stand up. What's your name, sir? Okay, so Jason's here, and I wish all the candidates good luck. I'm running uncontested, as is Chairman Widmer, so I predict victory for the 2 of us. We do appreciate that you're at least willing to serve, whether you get elected or not, so thanks for signing up. The 3 articles that we will discuss today, Articles 2, 3, and 4, can be found at the back of the annual report. That's this pink book. There's also some handouts. The articles are on pages 41 and 42, and there's extra copies in the lobby if you don't have those. The main budget you can find, which is Article 4, is on pages 38 through 40. If anyone desires to amend an article or make a substantive motion, I'd appreciate it if you reduce it to writing and give it to me. That way we can ensure that it's accurately presented to the voters and we have it in the file. Please keep them simple and straightforward if you're inclined to make any kind of an amendment. I also don't permit amendments to amendments on the floor at the same time. If an amendment is made, we'll vote it either up or down and then move on to another amendment if we get to that point. We do operate under SB 2, which has 3 procedural twists. One, you cannot kill an article by tabling or passing over it. Number 2, the default budget, which is in Article 4, is not amendable because that amount is set by law. And number 3, warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law can also not be changed. No warrant article can be amended to eliminate the subject matter. You can change the dollar amount, you can change the intent and the impact, but you cannot change the subject matter. Now, as in the past, I don't follow any particular parliamentary rules. I generally will recognize the person that submitted an article. The school board submitted all the articles this year, so a school board member will start off discussing Article 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll open it up, of course, to the public if anybody would like to participate. For those of you that do want to speak, we have a microphone with hand wipes and some Clorox-type solution there for your safety. This should be a fairly short meeting because there will be no final votes today. I'll read each and every article before it's discussed. It does not need to be moved or seconded. For those of you that do speak, again, please go to the microphone. We are being streamed. We're also on television, and we have, I believe, the radio as well, so it's important that those that are not here can clearly hear what's transacting at the meeting. If we vote on anything today, it will require a simple majority to either pass or fail. We do not need any supermajority. And after a reasonable period of time has elapsed regarding the discussion of a particular article, I would entertain a motion to terminate debate or call the question, which I treat as synonymous. I always waver on the side of letting people speak rather than prematurely or precipitously cutting off debate because we only do this once a year. For those of you that have cell phones, this would be a great time to take them out and make sure that they are off so that we don't disrupt the meeting once we get started. You're also all aware that various motions can be made that can change a prior motion. And if you have to leave and you want to leave with confidence that there will be no changes procedurally in something we've already discussed, you can move to restrict reconsideration of that article. And if that passes, then we will not reconsider that motion or article today. And finally, we can only discuss the subject matter which appears in the warrant. It would be unfair and inappropriate to discuss matters that the public was not warned of, so if there's been no notice, there can be no discussion of those issues. Those are basically the same rules that we've had in the past and that we're going to follow today. And as a final reminder, you'll find in the annual report on page 41 your polling hours on March 9th. All towns will be voting. There's a possibility that Effingham may not. And for those of you that are from Effingham, there's some consideration they may push the meeting back. If they do, just be aware of the new time so you don't show up to an empty building if they vote to push that off. And finally, it's been a tradition since 1988 for the chairman of the school board to deliver a State of the School report. I therefore like to recognize Chairman Jack Whitmer. Jack?
Thank you, Randy. Good morning. My name is Jack Whitmer, Chairman of the Governor Wentworth Regional School Board. Thank you for taking the time to join us today for our deliberative session. Though things in our state and throughout the world are still so impacted by the global pandemic, I appreciate the community's ongoing commitment to what is best for students, staff, and community. As I have said before, we may not always agree on the outcomes we have arrived at in these past 10 months, but I know that everyone's intentions have been in the right place, taking care of our students and doing what is right and best for them. In that spirit, I look forward to sharing some highlights of what has been done across our schools to make the best of the most challenging times in education I can ever remember. I am hopeful for better days ahead for all of us, as I know we all are. But before I begin, I just want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to our dedicated teachers, staff, and administrators, as well as parents, grandparents, caregivers, and guardians of our students. Never before has the adage, "It takes a village," been more true. None of us could have predicted last March that our school doors would close for the remainder of the school year, and that our students would all be taught remotely. Within days of the closure, our teachers and students had to pivot from face-to-face instructions to a fully remote world. Along with that came other significant shifts in how our schools operated. From food service continuing to provide breakfast and lunches for students across the district, along with 68 hours of hunger and Nights Against Hunger continuing to provide backpacks, to the transportation department at the ready to assist in every way. Teachers worked tirelessly to create a new learning environment overnight, and support staff worked in tandem. Counselors came together to support students and their families socially, emotionally, and academically. The IT department and administration worked around the clock to develop a plan that was ever-changing as new information became available. As the scope of the plan evolved, a district-wide task force was created, and its members worked into the summer to look at all facets of teaching and learning, making recommendations for a safe school reopening plan to present to the board and community. There was so much that went into our reopening this past September, and looking back, I am overwhelmed by the amount of time, energy, and dedication that so many people put forth on behalf of our students. I continue to be so proud and grateful. Thank you. As the morning goes on, we will review the state of our schools, the rationale for each of the warrant articles, and the district's proposed budget for fiscal year 2022. At this time, I'd like to begin with the state of the schools. The spirit at Kingswood Regional High School is palpable, even amid all the changes this past year has brought. I want to draw your attention to the center of this slide. This is the newest piece of art at the high school, which is the class of 2020's tile project. This was completed by the students of the graduating class in order to mark this historic time and a way for their school community to honor them and their perseverance. While they were not able to have a traditional graduation, this work of art gave each student the opportunity to decorate a tile in the way that they would have typically decorated their graduation caps. This artwork is now on permanent display in the Kingswood Regional High School cafeteria. While a hybrid model is still in place at this time, teachers, staff, and students are finding creative ways to be engaged and connected and to make all of the pieces come together in this model. While some students are fully remote, utilizing the EduCare platform, many students are appreciative of the hybrid model that allows them to interact with peers and teachers a couple of times a week. The classes are much smaller in order to maintain social distancing. Students have been able to participate in peer outreach, community service, hands-on classes, theater, sports, and accessing the media center to support their classes. All of this, of course, is on a smaller scale, but we look forward in the near future, I hope, to fully return to all of the great academic and co-curricular offerings for our high school students. As I just mentioned, students were able to participate in theater. Although Kingswood was unable to present its traditional theater season, thanks to the very large and state-of-the-art facility the district has provided, they were able to make those adaptations and still present several in-person performances to the public. In the fall, Kingswood presented Laughter is the Best Medicine, a series of vignette plays to the public. This appeared on stage at the end of October. Then, starting in November, the students of Kingswood Theater took the reins and put together 3 student-directed and produced plays, which debuted the third week of January. A week later, the Kingswood Theater performance class, in conjunction with the Lakes Region Technology Center set and costume design classes, presented The Merry Wives of Windsor. And that was just the first semester. Currently, the Kingswood Theater is in production of Dine and Dash, a short one-act play. This original play will be video recorded on stage and will be submitted to the New Hampshire Educational Theater Guild's annual festival, which has been modified this year to be virtual. Kingswood Theater continues to express how grateful they are for all of the support the district had given at this difficult time. This fall, with protocols in place, 23 of our Kingswood athletic teams participated in approximately 500 athletic events, which included both practices and games. All varsity teams were able to compete in the NHIAA revamped playoff system, including bass fishing, cross country, golf, field hockey, football, volleyball, and both boys and girls soccer. While the fall season certainly presented challenges, our student athletes, their supportive families, and our coaches rose to the challenge and delivered a successful fall season that made our community proud. As you are all aware, winter sports is up and running, and our student athletes are competing in alpine skiing, boys and girls basketball, cheerleading, Nordic skiing, unified basketball, and boys and girls ice hockey. It always makes me proud to share annual updates about our Scholar Athlete Awards. 23 student athletes from the class of 2021 have been nominated for this award. Congratulations to each of them. Kingswood Athletics is preparing to open up registrations for spring sports in the coming weeks. These will include baseball, softball, boys and girls tennis, boys and girls lacrosse, and track and field. The unwavering community service efforts of our high school students continues to make us all proud. Kingswood Regional High School's Student Council was able to run their successful Wish Upon a Star program with several towns participating, including New Durham, Wolfeboro, Ossipee, and Middleton. The Kingswood students and staff brought in 170 gifts for the families in need across these communities. At Thanksgiving, along with community partnerships and the Alumni Association, the students were able to donate 30 food baskets, as well as additional canned goods to our surrounding food pantries. The students also introduced a holiday thanks week this year in an effort to promote school spirit and the importance of reflecting on all that had to be all they had to be grateful for despite the ongoing pandemic. The week included dress-up days, a class video contest, and a bulletin board decorating contest. Although unable this year to rely on our major fundraisers, they were still able to donate to the Pennies for Patients campaign last spring and award 2 scholarships each for $1,000. While the National Honor Society had to suspend several of their normal activities, such as Kingswood and Kids, visiting the local nursing homes and the Children's Center, they were able to write out and send several hundred holiday cards to local nursing homes and retirement communities. Each member of the National Honor Society was also able to record a reading of a children's book that could then be uploaded to Seesaw for our elementary students. Creative ideas like this continue to be put in place, and I'm sure they are very much appreciated. The Lakes Region Technology Center continues to be a tremendous asset for our students and for those in our surrounding districts of Moultonborough, Prospect Mountain, and Farmington. We are small in comparison to other centers across the state, but we offer one of the highest numbers of programs. We are particularly pleased that more and more students at LRTC are earning dual credit through Lakes Region Community College. The option of attending college while in high school, referred to as a 2+2+2 model, sets our students up for great success as they move towards post-secondary education. We are proud that LRTC now offers 11 Running Start programs under this initiative. This has served to be a great advantage for so many of our students. I know I speak for the board when I say how proud we are of the center's ability to meet the unique needs of our students at the Technology Center during this past year. It was a challenge to navigate the delivery of instruction while maintaining the integrity of these certification-based programs for our students. Our hats go off to all involved in successfully navigating this under Principal Bruce Farr's leadership. Some of these industry certifications that are offered are the LNA in Health Certificate, Safety in Automotive Technology, Social Media in Marketing Education, Hotel and Management and Hospitality and Tourism, and OSHA 10 Certification of Construction Trades, just to name a few. In addition to adding another Running Start program to the center, the work-based learning program was expanded to support students as well. As our community knows, Kingswood Regional Middle School is a place where students from all of our communities come to learn together for the first time, including Middleton students. These 2 impactful years before high school are intended to not only offer rigorous academics to support their growth during these adolescent years, but to strengthen work habits such as collaboration, perseverance, and resilience. This past year has certainly underscored the importance of each of these qualities. In the pictures we are sharing today, I think you can see that each of those qualities is coming through from our students as well as the adults who work with them. From Officer Devine, our new SRO, joining students for a game of pickleball in their physical education class, to teachers adapting to a change in their teaching environment, our middle school students have strong role models in perseverance and resilience. The Middle School Student Council, with support by several staff members, collected generous donations from the Kingswood community in order to fill 30 Thanksgiving baskets for families in need. The spirit of giving begins early on across the district, and this is something I truly believe is a hallmark of our schools. Robotics was able to begin again as an after-school activity, and students were glad to be back to building their own individual robots to code them to run the course. Robotics is something that the entire board has supported for many years, and we believe it is such an important complement to the academic offerings. The middle school football team had a great season this past fall, exhibiting dedication, work ethic, and determination during their season. The volleyball team also had a wonderful fall season, along with field hockey, boys and girls soccer. The success of our students at the middle school and high school are built upon a strong foundation across our elementary schools, in addition to our sister school, Middleton Elementary School. The challenges of this pandemic have not changed our goal of maintaining as much academic consistency as possible. We know too well the impact that lost in-person instructional time has had on our students, and we are fully committed to doing all we can in the year ahead to support all students. I know that the administration is focusing on summer programming as well as other ways to close the learning gap that we know exists for many of our students. We are grateful to have been able to staff a fully remote option for students for whom the hybrid model was not an option this year. The K-8 remote teaching team continues to work collaboratively with one another while staying connected to their home-based buildings. Whether remote or in building, I continue to be impressed with the creativity and dedication of our teachers and staff. I know my fellow board members join me in looking forward to welcoming students back to our monthly meetings to see all the wonderful learning that is taking place. I know we have many areas that we will learn more about, whether it is learning a new piece of narrative writing, or about the elementary robotics team, camp invention, great math challenges, a social emotional tool, or a new physical activity. I assure you we cannot wait. Until that day comes, I am happy to share a few highlights from across our 6 elementary schools. A common theme across the district this year, more than ever, is how happy teachers, staff, and administrators were to welcome the students back. While some were welcomed back in person and others virtually, there was a great deal of excitement all around. At Carpenter School, staff and students appreciated the use of an outdoor classroom space for things like a class read-aloud. Students enjoyed working on STEM projects, such as the 3rd grade pencil project, while other Carpenter students explored their classroom science discovery center. Students were able to enjoy movement breaks and build a snowman relay race during recess. Students participated in a community service project where they designed holiday placemats for local care centers. This activity was coordinated by a community member, and the students were so happy to be part of it. This activity, as well as collecting for the food bank, as they do annually, allow even our youngest students to see the importance of giving back. At Crescent Lake, students joined Carpenter in that same spirit of giving back by participating in the Thanksgiving Placemat project for the Mountain View Nursing Home residents. Members of the Otter Student Council also organized a food drive for the local food pantry, where they collected over 1,400 canned items. Students arriving early this fall were welcomed by a new canopy, as you can see in the upper right of the slide. On the back side of the canopy, the core values of Crescent Lake's students appears, stating, ready, respectful, and resilient. This fall allowed many classes to take their learning outdoors, getting fresh air while maintaining safety protocols. Recess took on some new and different activities, which were embraced by the students. Learning was infused with fun, with activities such as the 5th grade pumpkin investigation, where students estimated and recorded seed counts. Halloween was still celebrated even for remote students who gathered online in costumes. On the right side of the slide, you can see just one example of a fully remote classes energizing everything science project. Despite the challenges of navigating learning in these times, students can take part in learning that keeps them connected to one another, their teachers, and their schools. The board is thrilled with the solar field that was completed this past fall at Effingham Elementary. This solar field, completed by Barrington Power, allowed students to become young engineers and supervisors as they observed the process of the solar installation. What an incredible learning opportunity for our students and a phenomenal investment for the district. Along with his environmentally sound investment, students at Effingham continued to partner with the Green Mountain Conservation Group 10 years strong. As safety allows, guest teachers share their knowledge and passion with students, particularly as it pertains to the collection of water samples within the Ossipee Lake watershed. 2 outdoor classrooms were a favorite spot at Effingham Elementary this past fall. I wouldn't be surprised to see that they stay in place across the district long after the pandemic. Each elementary school across the district worked together to honor their 6th grade students last June. While traditional promotion ceremonies could not be held, each school found a way to make makes students feel special. While many of the photographs pictured here are of instruction during the pandemic, others depict learning prior to last March, such as first graders wrapping up a STEM project involving gingerbread making. This involved the study of geography, literature, science, and math, a well-rounded interactive experience, one of the many things that I know all staff and students will be glad to return to. New Durham School highlighted the importance of school emotional well-being, often throughout immersing the students in amazing art projects tied to the curriculum. Having a creative or physical outlet for students is a critical element to their learning. And as you can see in several of the photos here, there is no shortage of creativity shared here. The newspaper club at New Durham continued to be published even during last spring's remote session. Camp Invention was held remotely, as it was for others who wished to participate across the district, along with a virtual promotion ceremony for sixth graders. Halloween is a much anticipated day for our students, as we know, and the show must go on. And so it did, with masks and a social distance parade, minus the spectators. The staff at New Durham worked together to ensure that they could support families and students in every way possible, a true community. This is something I am so proud of at each one of our schools. As Principal Seavey shared, staff works extraordinarily hard to be sure that no child falls through the cracks, and staff is always willing to do more. This is a theme that is seen across our district. We can do it, borrowed from the phrase from Rosie the Riveter. The office staff and administrator certainly set the tone with their Halloween costumes at Ossipee Central School in this October. Students were led through some of their most beloved learning activities, such as fourth grade Colonial Days and Elfin Craft Days. While the fair is typically held during the holiday concert, crafts this year were done in classroom to celebrate the winter season. Creativity ranged from homemade apple cider to gift bags. Outdoor space and recess gave students a chance to enjoy learning and playing in a different environment. Just as some of our remote learners adapted to demonstrations of their learning in their home environments. I continue to be amazed at the ingenuity of our teachers in finding ways to reach students in a variety of ways, and our students' adaptability. Like each of our schools, Tuftonboro has shared the desire to create a sense of normalcy for students, such as siblings riding the buses together or giving them familiar tools to support their academics, social, and emotional well-being. Whether it is snowshoeing as part of the outdoor adventure break or modeling how to make learning fun, the students were able to take part in many of these things that they look forward to at school. As you can see, Halloween remains a favorite among our elementary students. With that said, I'd like to provide a brief update on curriculum. With last spring's shift to remote learning and this year's hybrid model, teachers are focusing on priority competencies to ensure that students are learning the most essential concepts of their grade level. Despite facing limitations of face-to-face instructional time and COVID safety protocols, teachers continue to work on engaging students in hands-on problem-solving activities in all subject areas. The district has invested in some useful resources such as braining camps, digital math manipulatives, Gizmo's virtual science labs, and Seesaw for elementary online learning. Several schools are piloting a program to help target and address specific skill deficits. As we anticipate shifting back to being in school full-time, either later this school year or next fall, we will be utilizing this and other tools to help us get students back to their pre-pandemic trajectory of progress. Across the district, we have always been so grateful to our volunteers. PTOs and volunteers actively and selfishly engage with our school communities to raise funds to supplement programs, chaperone, assist in classrooms, donate materials, and assist on special projects. Our PTOs and volunteers have always been significant partners in our work. While volunteering had to be paused over this past year, I want to thank all who have reached out to the schools to offer their support, virtual time, donations, or thoughts. I also want to thank the many individuals who work tirelessly in our communities to support the needs of our families. Though so much has been so difficult over the past 11 months, there has been a lot of support for one another. I look forward to the day of welcoming back our volunteers across the district. Before closing my remarks, I want to take a moment again to express my gratitude on behalf of the board. Thank you to the Transportation Department. It is not an easy feat to coordinate all of the routes, which vary on any given day. The complexities of covering transportation in a district of our size is a challenge in the best of circumstances. What has been coordinated and carried out by all of this department is nothing short of amazing. Thank you. Thank you to our custodians and buildings and maintenance team for their hours and efforts to keep our buildings safe and clean. Thank you to our food service staff for keeping our children nourished and for working so tirelessly behind the scenes to do so. Thank you to our school secretaries for their ongoing efforts to coordinate and carry out the multifaceted changes at the building levels. And thank you to our teachers, our nurses, specialists, our SAU and support staff, and our administrators for doing all that needs to be done, even when it seems insurmountable. Thank you to our families and our community members for understanding that we have faced one of the most challenging times of our lives. I believe we all join in wanting nothing but the best for our students today and in every day to come. That concludes my state of the school, and now I'd like to turn things back over to the moderator, Randy Walker.
All right. Looks like we had the battery go dead on that mic. All right, so we'll move right on to Article 2. And at the end of Article 4, we have just a brief bit of new business that we'll discuss as well. But moving right to Article 2, and thank you, Jack, for that State of the School report. Number 2, to see if the Governor Wentworth Regional School Board will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $60,000 to be added to the Turf Field Capital Reserve Fund previously established, and furthermore, to name the school board as agents to expend this sum to come from the June 30th, 2021 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2021. No amount to be raised from taxation. The school board recommends this appropriation. In order for it to pass in March, it will need a majority vote, and I understand Julianne Cardinal will address this first, so Julianne, you're up. Your mic's not on there yet. There you go.
Each year for the past several years now, we have presented a turf field capital reserve warrant article. The capital reserve was established to avoid the district having a full expense of replacing the turf field all at once. It is a predictable expense, and setting aside a certain amount of money each year is a better way to deal with the expense by managing it over time. The life expectancy of a turf field is approximately 12 years, at a cost between $700,000 and $750,000 to replace. The reserve was established in 2013, and we currently have $542,750 in the fund. 2 years ago, we had turf field experts come out to look at the field to determine its condition. Because the field has been so well taken care of, we were told that with continued care and maintenance, we were likely to get 2, possibly 3 years beyond the usual life of the turf field. Extending the life of the field by 3 years brings us to 2024 as the year for replacement. If voters continue to support this article, as they have each year, we will have the money needed for the replacement in the Capital Reserve Fund, and no additional money will need to be raised. Thank you.
Discussion or any questions regarding Article 2? Don't y'all jump up at once. All right, seeing none, we will move on to Article 3. Shall the Governor Wentworth Regional School District raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 for repairs and improvements of building and grounds at the Kingswood Regional High School, Kingswood Regional Middle School, the Lakes Region Technology Center, the Kingswood Arts Center, the Carpenter School, Crescent Lake School, Effingham Elementary School, New Durham School, Ospey Central School, Tuptonboro Central School, and the SAU 49 Transportation Facility. The school board recommends this appropriation. A majority vote will be needed for it to pass in March, and I understand, Julianne, you're up on this as well. Oh, sorry, Jim.
Great. Thank you, Randy. Each year, we have presented a capital improvements warrants article in order to provide a safe and healthy learning environment for our students and staff, and also to protect the district's assets. For many years prior to the Kingswood project, this capital improvements warrant article was $200,000. It was reduced for a few years following until it returned to $200,000 in 2015. After that, we were able to keep the warrant article down to $150,000 until fiscal year 2019, when it was increased to $200,000 again due to the age of some of our buildings. I'm going to take a few minutes to highlight for you some of the great work that's been done over the past year, as well as highlight some projects that demonstrate the need for our request. Before I move on, however, I want to say how thankful I am for how well maintained our buildings are, and how much I appreciate the hard work of our staff, especially during these most difficult times. Thank you. With the $200,000 that you, our voters, approved last year, we were able to complete a significant number of important projects, beginning with the much-needed cowl wall replacement at New Durham School. On this slide, you can see the pictures of the wall before and during the project. Here you can see what a significant difference the replacement of the cowl wall makes, not only in the appearance of the building, but in the increased energy efficiency. In addition to the cowl wall replacement at New Durham School, you can see here the significant facelift the school received with the repainting of the doors and entryway windows. This work was completed by the Governor Wentworth School District Maintenance Department. The much anticipated completion of the Effingham solar field, completed by Barrington Power, as Jack mentioned earlier, is shown here in the beginning stages. In the lower right corner, one of our young engineers is shown here taking a look at the blueprints during the initial phases. The new solar field, which began producing electricity for the school during the month of November, is projected to provide enough power to fully operate Effingham Elementary School. Here's an aerial view of the completed project. For those of you who have not had an opportunity to see it, take a drive-by. It's very impressive. Here you'll see the roof replacement that was desperately needed over the classroom section of Effingham Elementary. The old shingles, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, were curling up and falling off, causing a potential leak hazard. On the right, you can see what a difference there is in the completed project. Here you see the Crescent Lake School roof near the gym. Much like Effingham's, this roof was in dire need of repair. In this case, the shingles were eroding from the water falling from the upper roof. Ossipee Central School had some carpet that was quite stained and had become a tripping hazard. This flooring project has made a significant difference, as you can see here. The Governor Wentworth Regional School District Maintenance Department also completed a much-needed update to the Ossipee Central School baseball field concession stand. The snack shack, as you can see here, had withered and there was water damage throughout. Thanks to the maintenance department, the snack shack looks brand new. At Carpenter Elementary School, snow guards were installed to prevent the hazard of snow sliding off the roof above the entrances. Like Ossipee Central School, Tuftonboro had some carpets that had to become a tripping hazard. The carpet was replaced with vinyl composite tile, or VCT, as you can see on the right. Additional projects that were completed by our maintenance department include those you see here, which include painting of the bathroom stalls at Effingham Elementary, as well as pruning the trees in front of Carpenter Elementary School to ensure safety by increasing visibility. At the Kingswood complex, stone drainage was placed around the media center windows to prevent water and mud splattering against the windows, or worse yet, from it seeping in. On the left of this slide is an interior view of the repair done at Crescent Lake. As a result of the roof leak highlighted in an earlier slide, the trees around the new Durham school playground were also benefited from some pruning to allow for better visibility. During the upcoming February vacation, the side entrance door at Carpenter School, which faces the Pickering House, will be replaced. The doors, installed in 1984, are deteriorating and difficult to operate. The new doors will be stainless steel, will not rust, and will be much easier to use. Additionally, they'll have a card swipe capability, which is a great security feature. Future capital improvement projects will continue to allow us to address significant repairs across the district. We have several top priorities for fiscal year 2022, including the sidewalk repairs needed at several schools. As you can see, there are several tripping hazards due to the deterioration of the sidewalks. Welcome to New England. Other capital improvement projects that are high on the priority list across the district include the replacement of Tuftonboro Central School's roof. The area highlighted in red in the center photo is the area in need of replacement. The current ballast roof allows snow and water to back up and seep under the shingled roof above it. Another significant project on our list is the replacement of the solarium window at New Durham School. The current windows have leaking gaskets and are quite inefficient. Here on the left in this photo, you see the New Durham water heating pump control. The current control simply turns the pump on and off. The new proposed system on the right would convert it to a variable frequency drive system. This proposed controller modulates the speed of the motor according to building demand. This would save in kilowatt consumption as well as wear and tear on the motor and parts such as belts, bearings, and bushings. I love this slide. Anyone looking at the left photo who's an electrician, you know what I'm talking about. Another substantial project is an upgrade to New Durham School's building automation system. The current system, shown here on the left, relies on pneumatics, an air compressor to control building heating, ventilation, and air conditioning functions. The proposed system is a programmable logic controller, which is a more efficient, reliable, and accessible system. As you can see, we have some expensive projects on this list and another list of secondary priorities. I cannot tell you how important your support of these projects is, as it allows us to proactively address needs in our facilities before they become urgent and more costly issues. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any discussion or questions regarding Article 3? Seeing none, I will move on to Article 4. Shall the Governor Wentworth Regional School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended, and by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein totaling $56,220,378. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $56,218,234, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Governor of Wentworth Regional School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with the provisions of RSA 4013, Roman numeral 10 and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Note this warrant article operating budget does not include appropriations requested in any of the other warrant articles. The school board recommends this appropriation. In order for it to pass in March, it will need a majority vote. And Jack, you're going to tackle this one.
Thank you, Randy. Again, thank you for being here today or tuning in live stream to the deliberative session. To give you some background, there are many steps in the budget development process before the budget proposal comes to the full board, and several public meetings have been held prior to today's meeting. 3 Finance Committee meetings were held in November and were open to the public. A preliminary budget hearing was held in December, and in January we held the budget adoption hearing. Today is an opportunity to hear a very detailed explanation of the budget going forward on the ballot. I want to remind you the public is welcome to reach out to the SAU office or board members if you have any questions remaining after today's meeting. We provide community members with every opportunity to learn about the budget with the hope that you will be familiar with it and that all of your questions are answered before voting in March. In the past several years, we've retired our debt for Ossipee, Effingham, and New Durham bonds, leaving only the bond for the Kingswood complex renovation. As the principal on the bond for the complex decreases, building aid, which helps to defray our costs, also decreases. This year, the decrease in aid adds 1.31% to our budget deficit, our budget service, I'm sorry. Budget preparation begins in October. Principals meet with the faculty and staff who provide them with requests and recommendations regarding what is needed for each school. Each administrator submits a budget to the SAU office. The business administrator and superintendent of schools meets with each school leader to discuss their requests. If there is a large increase in an individual school budget, unless there is a special circumstance or a very well-justified rationale, the administrator is asked to review the budget and reduce it, while keeping priorities intact. If a significant increase remains that doesn't have strong justification, a second cut may occur. Personnel requests are made at the same time. Requests for positions may or may not proceed to the Finance Committee meeting, depending on the strength of the rationale outlining the need for the position. There are occasions when requested positions are well justified and very much needed, yet, nevertheless, due to financial circumstances, the Finance Committee is unable to recommend that they remain in the budget. This is the position we are in this year. The business administrator reviews the district line items and determines amounts to be requested based on past history, current expenditures, and projected pricing. After cuts, adjustments, and reallocations have been made, the Finance Committee meets with the principals, special education director, business administrator, and the superintendent to review the budget requests. At this time, the Finance Committee recommends changes they feel are necessary to bring a budget to the voters that supplies what our schools need and what the voters will support. These are the meetings that I mentioned before that occur in November. Again this year, the administrators did an excellent job bringing forward a responsible budget. This budget is not a pandemic budget and is based on the assumption we will be back to full-time school in September. Due to the pandemic, lowered revenue projections, and concern about the tax rate, we have looked at every possible place to reduce the budget and still provide what is needed for our children. The enrollment figures you see here illustrate the decrease we have seen in the majority of our schools. Only Crescent Lake School has increased enrollment. Last year, we saw a slight upward trend. However, our enrollment has most definitely been hurt by the pandemic. The lower school numbers include our students who are in the entirely remote program. However, the numbers do not include the students who are being homeschooled. It is difficult to know how many of these students who are currently not in school will return when the pandemic is over. This is important for many reasons, including the fact that our enrollment figures have an impact on our revenue. When we have fewer students, we receive less adequacy, also known as grant money from the state of New Hampshire. The decrease in the grant is also greater than the amount we were able to decrease in our budget due to expenses. You will see this clearly when we review the revenue portion of the budget. The vast majority of the school districts are experiencing lower enrollments due to the pandemic, and we anticipate that the revenue will be negatively impacted next year when adequacy dollars are based on these enrollment numbers. There is some attempt to appeal to the legislature to pass legislation that would hold districts harmless and allow the use of last year's numbers or the average of the last 3 years. We don't know whether that will be successful or not. Here we see a quick summary of the broadest budget categories. The employee expenses have increased 5.37%. This is the largest increase in the budget. The other expenses category has increased 1.24%, and the total general fund budget increase is 4.46%. The substantial increase in this budget are the ones over which we have very little control. The general fund budget does not include the decrease in the building and maintenance warrant article, which is a negative 19.23%. This brings the total budget increase projected to 4.16%. In the employee portion of the general fund budget, the area that has shown the most significant increase is the New Hampshire retirement system. The increase in this area is $938,403, representing an increase of 25.54%. This increase is not due to any circumstances locally, but is related to the management of the retirement fund and investments affecting the plan's underfunded actuarial liability, or the amount of the promised benefits that are greater than assets of the pension plan. The percentage that is contributed by the employer and the employees is a requirement governed by state law. The employee expenses portion in the general fund contains the second largest increase in the budget. In spite of the teachers and support staff picking up a larger percentage of the cost of health insurance, it is this area that has the second largest increase. The health insurance increase is $754,479, a percent increase being 9.14%. The increase this year to this year's rate is largely driven by the number and type of claims. Wages for our staff increased 1.64% or $416,169. The support staff will be in the final year of a 3-year contract, and the teachers will be in the 3rd year of a 4-year collective bargaining agreement. The wages are fixed and driven by collective bargaining agreements that were previously approved. The increases in these areas that we have little control over were so significant that we had to make some difficult decisions regarding the remaining areas of the budget. For example, we were not able to fund personnel requests for 2 additional positions. We would have liked to have been able to support these requests. However, we felt that we could not have given the areas increased we felt that we could not given this area that increased that we are obligated to fund. We looked at all areas in this portion of the budget for any potential decreases. The stars appearing on the screen are the areas where we were able to reduce. Professional services has an increase due to our contract with Huggins Hospital for our nursing services. We lowered repair and maintenance and made small changes where we felt we could without impacting programs too severely. Athletics, rubbish disposal, repairs and maintenance, contracted transportation, printing. We have a grant that will help pay for a portion of a van, allowing the district to transport more of our special education students to outside placements rather than contracting with a company, which is more expensive. The IT department upgraded the phone system in some of the schools as planned, and this is saving the district over $19,000 on the cost of phone services. The stars on this page denote areas that have been decreased. The only notable increases are in the computer area. The district needs to continue to fund software licenses in order to use the programs we have found beneficial for students and staff. Computer equipment is needed to be replaced, and replacing the equipment that is no longer functional due to age or use. The cost of vehicles replacement is down, as mentioned earlier, because of the special education grant. There are no collective bargaining agreements on the warrant this year. The two articles that we propose each year, building and maintenance and the turf field capital reserve, are once again being recommended. The proposed building and maintenance warrant article is for $150,000 rather than the $200,000, a decrease of 25%. The school board is recommending the $50,000 reduction in spite of a very long list of projects that need to be completed. We'll definitely need to return to our usual recommendation in order to keep our schools in good repair for the long term. However, we are doing this in order to lower the overall amount we need to raise in taxes this year. The warrant article for the turf field is recommended at $60,000. These dollars will come from unexpended funds at the end of the year. If the funds are not available, then they will not be put into the capital reserve. If the voters continue to support this article, we will have the money for the replacement in 2024, which is a projected date of replacement. There is not as much discretion in a school district budget as one would think. The operational budget can be characterized in the following ways: employee expenses, required by law or circumstances, or other legal or debt service, variable expenses, and pay now or pay later expenses. The required by law or circumstance category includes items such as insurance, electricity, heating oil, transportation, special education services. Pay now or pay later expenses include repairs and maintenance, building service agreements, and replacement of vehicles. These items, if ignored, will cost taxpayers more than if the spending is done on a timely basis. We have paid off quite a few bonds in recent years, and the debt remaining is at the Kingswood complex. The variable category represents those expenses over which we have the greatest control. Examples of items in this category include general supplies, books, computer software, print material, and equipment. These items have a direct impact on the curriculum and instructions we offer our students. Since we are a labor-intensive organization, it is no surprise that our employee expenses are by far the largest budget category. As mentioned at length, the costs passed down to us by the state and insurance increases have a significant impact on the employee portion of the budget. We have already discussed how the decrease in revenue impacts the budget. We are not the only district facing significant decreases in state funding. New Hampshire schools are facing a potential of an $89 million loss for New Hampshire schools. In 2019, lawmakers introduced a $138 million one-time funding boost to aid and those least able to raise funds through property taxes. This is set to expire at the end of this school year. This year, due to COVID-19, the New Hampshire Department of Education waived the requirement that families must fill out an application in order to receive food from our meal programs. As a result, we have experienced a significant drop in our free and reduced lunch applications. Additional differentiated funding, or aid, is provided for students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. This decrease in state aid, along with the money that was sent back to the towns this past year, had a dramatic influence on the increase people saw in the increase that the people will see in their tax bills this coming year. Our revenue for the coming year are projected to be lower. Adequacy aid, which is a state grant, will be lower due to both lower enrollment and the calculations based on those students eligible for free and reduced lunch. The projection is that we will receive $503,720 less. As we pay down the principal on the Kingswood Complex project bond, we receive less in building aid. Next year, we will receive $57,151 less than we did this year. Even more important this year is the calculation of the tax rate is the amount of money returned to the general fund. Each year, the school district returns the entire fund balance back to the towns based on the town's proportional share. This past year, with schools closing in March, the district had a much larger fund balance, and we were able to return $3,956,339, nearly $4 million, to the taxpayers. This reduced taxes for this year significantly. However, returning the money has the unfortunate effect of artificially inflating the percentage increase in the tax rate for the following year. This year, we will return we will return the fund balance to the towns as we always do. However, we will not have a large sum available to return to the towns this year, since our expenses have not been decreased by the pandemic. Instead, they have increased. The substantial decreases in projected revenue will have a significant impact on the tax rates and played a significant role in the school board's decision to cut back on so many areas of the proposed budget. Last year, school was closed from the middle of March through the end of the school year. This is the reason for the nearly $4 million surplus we were able to return to the taxpayers at the end of the fiscal year last year. We saw that reduction, you saw that reduction in this year's tax bills. This year, running 2 cohort groups and a remote K-12 program for students has been costly. We have had significant unanticipated expenses for the items on this chart. The CARES Act money we received covered some of these expenses. However, we will still have a significant cost to be covered by local dollars. We do anticipate additional dollars from the federal government we are required to spend, and we are required to spend those dollars according to specific guidelines and be used for programs that supplement what we already provide. For example, these dollars will help us to provide a robust summer program for our students this summer. To understand how the money from each community is raised and the tax rate is set, it is important to understand how the cooperative formula works. There is a lot to the formula, so we review it each year with the current figures. The amount of the gross budget is $56,530,379, less the estimated revenue of $6,964,604, or $49,783,940. $465,775 to be raised through taxation is proportionally distributed to each town according to the formula. Of that total, 75% is allocated based on the town's relative portion of the average daily membership, roughly equivalent to the number of students in attendance from each town, while 25% is allocated based on each town's relative portion of the district's equalized valuation. Because all towns are required to pay a state education tax, both the tax and the state adequacy aid are credits used to offset the town's share of its obligation. Thus, the $49,465,775 is paid as follows: $3,913,423 in state adequacy aid, $9,411,466 paid as a state education tax, and $36,141,054 paid as a local education tax. This slide shows the end result of the cooperative formula, the property values and the state grant on the money that needed to be raised from each town and taxpayer. These are the tax rates you can expect to see as a result of this budget. This chart shows the impact that the money returned to the taxpayers had on reducing taxes this year. Comparing columns 1 and 2 in every community, the actual tax rate was much lower than the estimated tax rate. If we had not had the windfall to return to taxpayers, with the budget we are proposing this year, the difference in the tax rate from this year to next would be substantially smaller. The left-hand side of column 5 approximates what the projected tax rate would have been, and the right-hand side what the projected tax rate is under the current circumstances. This is not the first time in recent budget history handing money back to taxpayers has created an artificially inflated increase the following year. In 2011, when we received money as a result of the ARRA, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, funds to the district were able to be used for technology infrastructure and equipment, and we were able to return money that was budgeted to the taxpayers. The following year, in 2012, the assessment increase of 13.13% was much higher than it would have been if we had not had the money to return. We have also returned the entire fund balance to the taxpayers and will continue to do so because we believe it is the right thing to do. However, we want taxpayers to be aware that when we return a large amount, the increase in tax rate the following year looks much higher because of the windfall from the previous year. Looking at the budget history, you can also see how frugal the increases have been over the past several years. The cooperative formula gives the property poor towns some tax relief, with the cooperative formula being based on 25% equalized value. The towns with the less property value pay less per pupil. The town paying the least per student is Effingham at $11,919. Tuftonboro students pays $24,763 per student. To put the tax rate into perspective, it is useful to compare our taxes to those of other communities. This way we are comparing apples to apples. In order to do this, we must look at full value tax rates that reflect properties at 100% of their value. The New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration prepares such a report titled Tax Rate Comparison. It lists all New Hampshire towns, cities, and land grants, identifying their respective full-value tax rate for both local governments and schools. Because equalized tax rates cannot be calculated until the tax year is over, the data available runs 1 year in arrears. The information you see is taken from the most recent tax comparison available tax year 2020. The 238 New Hampshire communities have been ranked according to the tax rate for schools, towns, and county, and placed in quadrants, with the highest tax rate at the bottom of the chart and the lowest at the top of the chart, and the lowest at the bottom of the chart in the yellow portion. The next lowest quadrant is the pink portion. Rather than comparing school districts, towns, and counties to each other, this compares those entities charged with providing the same functions and types of services to the taxpayers, comparing school districts to other school districts, towns with other towns, and counties with other counties. With regard to the school tax, all 6 of Governor Wentworth communities fall into the lowest half of the ranking. New Durham, Ossipee, Wolfeboro, and Tuftonboro all fall in the lowest quadrant. Another way to look at the budget is to compare how we spend our total budget in comparison to the rest of the state. This chart provides a comparison using state averages in each area compiled by the New Hampshire Department of Education. Our allocations are higher for regular education. We place an emphasis on instruction. The lower allocation for special education is due to the hard work on the part of our district staff to keep special education students in our district rather than in out-of-district placements. The percentage of students identified as needing special education services is 15%, which is consistent with our allocation for special programs. Technical education gets a higher allocation because not all schools have career and technical education centers or offer technical education. Instructional staff support services are exactly equal with the state average. We spend less on other instructional programs, also known as extracurricular activities. An area in which Governor Wentworth Regional School District spends significantly less are on general administration and business services, with state average being 4.4% and GWRSD's percentage at 1.7%. The most significant area in where Governor Wentworth exceeds the state average is in debt service. Although our debt is steadily decreasing, this figure is to be expected since we are still paying off the bond for the Kingswood complex. Our plant operations are exactly the same as the state spent across the state. Our expenditures for charter schools is less than that of the state because we are not responsible for or running any charter schools. Our food service program is above the state average. This is a little higher this year as we place high priority to make sure our families are fed. And last but not least, transportation is above the state average, which is not surprising since we rival Plymouth Regional School District for being geographically the largest district in the state. Being so spread out and transporting students to and from 8 schools accounts for this higher than average percentage. Under the default budget, the purpose of presenting a default budget is to give the voters an understanding of what the budget would look like should the proposed operating budget be voted down. RSA 40:13 is the official ballot law, also known as SB 2. It is this RSA that determines what is to be included as part of the default budget. A default budget contains the appropriations in the operating budget authorized for the previous year, reduced and/or increased by obligations mandated by law or previously incurred, such as debt service or contracts previously approved in the specific amount. One-time expenditures are not included in a default budget. The proposed budget is $56,220,378. And the default budget is $56,218,233. The default budget is $2,145 lower than the proposed budget. This provides an example of what an incredible frugal budget this is, with the default budget and the proposed budget being so close. Thank you for your attention, and I'll answer any questions on the budget if you have any.
Thank you, Jack. Are there any questions or comments on Article 4? Seeing none, we have a little bit of extra business. Jack?
Yes, I have one more item today under new business, and it's, I want to take a moment to thank Julianne Cardinal for her service to the district. Julianne became known to us when she was project manager at the Kingswood Complex renovation for North Branch Construction. She became a member of the school board in 2013. From the beginning of her time on the board, Julianne has been a very active part of the Building and Maintenance Committee and currently serves as the chair. Her expertise in this area has been invaluable. On board matters, Julianne is not one to necessarily loudly voice her opinion on every issue. However, she is a bit like the old E.F. Hutton commercial. When Julianne speaks, everyone listens. I know I speak for everyone when I say how much we appreciate her expertise and what a pleasure it's been to have Julianne serving on the board. Julianne, we will miss you. Thank you so much for it. Just a little token of our appreciation. Thank you.
So just one other housekeeping matter. I believe we'll have candidates night for the school board members February 19th. It's tentatively been scheduled. That has not been solidified yet. That will be live streamed and on TV for those of you who don't want to come. Is there any other new business? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Randy?
Yes, Jack.
We can, do we want to adjourn that? And then we have to go into non-public afterwards. So I guess we adjourn this meeting, and then I'll ask for a motion to go into non-public.
That will be fine. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moves. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, we are formally adjourned, so you can have your non-public.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A, semicolon 3, paragraph 2 for legal matters. Jim Pittman, Krista Aber, Jim, Julianne, Dr. Jim, and chair votes aye, and Dana. Yes.